Perfect. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's been a while since we did one of these iWIN live interview editions. So I'm pretty excited to bring them back. We're going to try and do some more of them. And if you can't watch the whole thing or you're watching it on review, you're probably watching it over on YouTube. So we're slowly moving some content over to YouTube. So again, thank you guys all for joining us. So without further ado, I do want to bring in tonight's guest, and I'll tell you that I kind of left this surprise. Not many of you guys probably have ever met him or know him. He's never been to a convention. He's been doing this for a couple years, but I've known him pretty much his entire life. So without further ado, I want to bring in my brother, Michael. So I'm going to bring him in, let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about him. How you doing?
Fantastic. How yourself?
Good. Well, it's a little warmer down here than it is up in Ohio.
Just a bit.
But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what got you involved with sweepstakes.
Well, of course, I'm Mike. I'm Tom's brother. A little bit about myself. I'm a hard worker. I'm a seafood manager at a grocery store chain up here in Ohio. Don't like the cold, so why I'm here still, I don't know. But a couple of cats, my wife. I have one son that's lives on his own. He's grown. He's an adult now, and that's pretty much the basis. As far as sweeps, love winning in anything, not just sweeps, of course. Anything I play, pool, darts, you name it, cornhole, can jam, love it. All about the winning. But sweepstakes definitely has become a decent portion of my life, actually, in the last few years. So
what, obviously you've known me, you've been around it, you've seen it for years. What finally pushed the button that started doing this for you, and how long has it been now since you've been literally doing it religiously, kind of like I do?
Yes. As far as that aspect, it's been almost 3 years religiously. I think one day I missed out of those almost 3 years as far as getting to my sweeps that I choose to enter. As far as what made me get into it, well, of course, I did a 3-year hiatus when I bought the house. I was busy with that, so I told myself I didn't have the time for it, stupidly, because I really did. Little did I know. But prior to that, I did it about 3 years, but I didn't do it. It was off and on. When I had time, sometimes I'd do them, sometimes I wouldn't. I still got decent results, but I think it was probably after the half dozen once-in-a-lifetime experiences I've been able to have because of Tom, as was one of few things that he's taken me on. And then probably about the 50th time he encouraged me to do it. And finally it just clicked and I made that decision. And, honestly, one of the best decisions of my life. I've had a really good, nice last 3 years.
So I don't even know this, but what was the first prize that you won?
First main prize, and it actually may have been the actual first prize. It was a decently big one. It was actually a bathroom vanity with a granite top, which was strange. I had just purchased the house, and it was pretty cool. Got to go to the place downtown in Cleveland, pick it out, and it was free. It was delivered, and it was. I think I might have paid for the install, but then I got a fancy faucet, one of those fancy, real expensive faucets, because I didn't have to pay for the vanity and the granite top to it. So it was that was actually a pretty cool one. And honestly, that was, if it wasn't the first win, that was definitely the first big win within the first couple of months of doing sweeps.
So some of you guys watching at home now have asked questions. If you have questions, by all means, go ahead and shoot them up there. I'm scrolling, so I'll see the questions and I'll bring them up. So once I get through a few Q&A with him, we'll definitely have time for questions. But if you have questions, go ahead and put those on there. I know somebody asked, will this be up on YouTube later? And it will. Once I get it formatted and everything, I will put it out on YouTube. In fact, I'll probably put the direct link in Discord, as well as it'll be in this Thursday's issue as well. So I invited you here because you actually finally had a really big win.
Yes. I've had a few decent ones, but yes, finally the big one.
This is your biggest win. So I was obviously excited. I was excited when you called me up that night and told me, but why don't you, in your own words, tell us how you found out about it and tell us what you want.
Well, it came through an email, it just like many of the other ones do. And, you know, sometimes you win a hat and sometimes you win a $500 gift card. So it came in one of those. So you never know when you click on it, you have that anticipation. Was I the grand prize winner? Well, this one, I happen to be the grand prize winner. And initially, basically the grand prize was a 2-year lease on a truck through Coors Light.
Yeah, and this was a sweep that I highlighted for the main reason that it was only open to 2 states. It was open to Ohio and Pennsylvania. The prize was very vague, which we talked about right after it happened. It said you win a lease on a 2022 or a 2023 truck. That was it. Didn't tell you what kind, what color, even what year. It gave you a choice of the 2. So once you get it, you know, not a lot of people win a vehicle. It's very, very hard. And I know we've had this conversation back and forth of, if you win a lease, is it really a vehicle because you don't get to keep it? We'll probably put that up as a survey. I'll probably put out on Twitter just to see what people think, because I think it is, you think it isn't. It's still a great prize.
Yes.
But what happens? So you get this email, and kind of walk us through the process so that somebody who's watching, when they get this email, they understand it a little bit.
Basically it was the sponsor that sent me the email, and I communicated back with, you know, thank you. I had to fill out some information like you do for many other sweeps. And mostly everything was through email. Shortly,
I'm going to correct you there, because it's not the sponsor. Right? You weren't dealing with Coors, you were dealing with the judging agency.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, and I get that mixed up because there was the third party of the procurement department that I didn't have any contact with that was talked about sometimes in emails. But yes, so and after that, after a couple of emails back and forth, basically I was told the dealership would reach out to me. They had picked a dealership. I'm assuming they Googled it because it was the closest dealership that's to me, including, I think you were telling me that Ford does work with Coors Light. So maybe that's why they picked a Ford dealership. And it's definitely the closest Ford dealership to me. And basically I spoke with a salesman at the dealership. He kind of explained the process is basically they had kind of picked out a truck through a couple of conversations. They had picked out a truck.
Originally, they gave you a long time frame that this may or may not. Well,
but about a year. Yeah. Yes. They said initially they did say, you know, it wasn't, it was very vague. I mean, with everything, the time frame, the make, model, and everything of the car. But through dealing with the dealership, they sent me over a credit app that they wanted me to fill out. And it seemed like, of course, anybody that sells cars, they want to make the deal. So it seemed like they were a little more eager than the gentleman I was emailing online through the company handling the sweepstake. And I was basically told by them we could push this into next year. My concern, of course, was for tax purposes. You know, do I want 2 weeks to figure out taxes, or can I put it off till next year?
Right, because you were notified very late in December.
Yes, at the December, I think 14th, and the communications were almost right up until the holiday time. And the gentleman did tell me they were going to be out of the office for the holidays. So it seemed like for me, it'd be great if we push this till they get back in January 4th from the holidays, which is kind of
what type of sweep was this? What did you have to do to win it?
Basically, and I remember because I went back, on any big one, I go back and look. And basically it was a daily entry one of the beer sweepstakes, I'd call them, where you got to enter your date of birth and an email every day. Takes few seconds. And it was either 35 or 45 days worth. And again, I enter every single day on the sweeps I choose to enter. So basically 35 or 40 times I had to go spend 5 seconds a day. You enter $100 and you may not win them all, and some are for a t-shirt, but this one was that simple.
How many are you entering on average? I know that obviously January the number's a lot lower, but I guess in December, what were you entering per day?
I'd say just in a general sense, at least 100. I've been up to 150 in my what I call pipeline. Now, some of those may be weekly, but most of them are daily sweeps.
And so as you go through this process, the one thing that I want to highlight is that originally the judging agency came back and said, hey, look, we don't know when we're going to be able to fulfill this. We got to get with the dealership. We don't know if we're going to be able to get a truck, the truck we want. There's a lot of little paperwork and red tape. It may be as long as a year before you get this, which, as we talked about, you have a current car lease. So time was your friend.
Yes.
You really had no rush to get this. But they tell you all that, and then the dealership literally calls you the next day.
Yes, that was a little bit more like it. And like I said, the dealership seemed a little more eager that, hey, we get this done and you come up here, pick up the truck and leave, as if this was going to happen before the holidays almost, which of course did not happen. We ended up, it got pushed just past the holidays. I had, and again, I'm trying to think of the exact timeline of events, but I had gotten an email. Oh, that's what it was. On the 3rd, I got an email from the company handling the sweeps, and the gentleman said, just looking for an update on the lease, because he knew the dealership had been trying to reach out to me at that point. And I basically told him I hadn't heard anything back from anybody, because obviously I wasn't that eager to get in.
What some people may not realize, if you've never leased a vehicle, the difference between leasing and winning a vehicle is there's a credit check. There's a credit check, and there's a process that needs to go through whenever you're leasing something. So it's much different than actually winning. So if you win it, courts like those, they pick out what they want, they write a check, you go in, you sign some paperwork, they hand you the keys, and away you go. But at least there's a lot more pieces, parts that need done. And that's what was causing some of the delay and some of even the dealership going, we've never really dealt with this. We're not sure exactly how this works.
Yes, he didn't know. The managers didn't know. They'd never dealt with it. But good problems to have, I suppose.
It was. So what kind of truck did they pick out for you?
They picked out a 2022 Ford F-150. And I was able to, through conversation with the dealership, find out, because there was a range on the price between $12,000 and $18,000. And I was able to find out that basically what they were going to be cutting the check for was like $17,980 or something, or $880 for it. Which I think might have been other issues with the cost of the truck, because again, they were giving me a 2022, which is the older model. So obviously with costs having gone up, I think there was just a lot to this sweep that was a little different than some other ones.
Right. And the rules were written very vague, which is fine. I mean, that there's nothing wrong with this. And the day this happened, we talked about that. And I said, this can play out a whole bunch of different ways. I've seen it happen with other members who have won vehicles, who have won leases, and different ways it goes. My perfect scenario, I was really excited for you. I wanted to get on a plane and film myself flying up, and be there with you when you got to pick it up, because it's interesting that neither one of us have won a car. We've both now won trucks or a truck lease in your aspect. And the truck was going to be silver for Coors Light.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but as time went on over the last couple weeks, the judging agency came back to you, and what did they tell you? Or what did they end up doing?
Well, after he asked for an update, he said he'd be getting back to me. And basically, the next email was a pretty brief email, just asking me how I would feel about a cash option. He did mention it would be at the lower end of the ARV, the 12,000, but just a brief paragraph, just asking how I'd feel about that. And quite frankly, I about jumped through the roof. I was excited. As you said, I have a lease through June that I'm kind of planned on potentially buying that car out anyway. So, it was like, this was going to be tough. I don't really drive much, and to have two brand new vehicles getting, 15 miles a week, that's, and paying all that insurance. So of course, those were my concerns. And of course, my first phone call was to you. What do I say in the responding?
As every numbers. And there were a lot of things to consider, and financially, that's what we had talked about, because you had a car lease that you were paying on, you're paying car insurance on that. So you want to take this as late as possible, because there wasn't additional money towards helping you cover the taxes. So this really handled a lot of those things and made your life very simpler. It didn't give me a great video, unfortunately. So selfishly, I was really excited to come up there, and I wanted to drive it and be with you when you got it. Somebody had asked, the Coors truck, was it a closed-end lease or something like that? And it was. That was actually in the rules, that he would not have had the option at the end of the lease to buy it out. So that's what they were for the rules. Now, granted, the dealership, again, there's so many moving pieces when you're leasing a vehicle, or even when you win a vehicle that you're buying, or that a company is buying you, that it can really go a bunch of different ways. So I'm watching some of the comments that some people are saying, yes, it's a vehicle win. Other people are like, no, it's not. We have this argument with trips, and I count a trip if I have an overnight. So if I win an overnight and tickets to events and something else, something with an overnight and something else, I consider that a trip, even if it's a staycation or something. I'm not going farther away, where for you, it needs to basically be in an airplane, correct?
Yes, because we had this discussion earlier. This year, I, under your terms, technically won my first trip. Was to the UFC fight in Columbus, and it was overnight in a hotel and good tickets to the event. And yes, I didn't consider that a trip. I guess part of it too being Columbus, it's right there. Maybe that's just, I feel like I got to get in an airplane. Yes, and go somewhere warm.
Yes, I would have technically counted that as a trip. So there's no right or wrong answer. You guys can count your trips, count your cars, however you want. I know people who, if they decline something, if they decline a trip, they consider it a trip win. I don't do that. So again, to each is their own. There's no pure right or wrong answer. So, but the big thing, I wanted to have you on to tell the story, to answer some of these questions, so that hopefully when somebody else wins, they kind of understand the process and what happens. And the best thing is, you got the money super quick, right?
Yes. As soon as I responded back with that email, it was literally within 3 days, I think, that we had it. They sent me a thing. They said, you'll be getting an email from like the Chase Pay or whatever. And it basically came through. I was able to get it into my bank account within, I think, 3 or 4 days of the initial email back from them.
Yeah, and we get a lot of questions with those Chase E-Pays and all these direct deposit. I gotta tell you, they're safe. These companies are doing them more and more and more. And it just, money gets transferred right into your account. So you do have to provide that information. So I know some people aren't sold on that, but we are seeing more and more companies doing it. In fact, all week I've been getting questions because people have been getting tons of 1099s that are being sent by email. So I just had another one right before we went live that came over to me that I got to enter some information and then I'll get my 1099. So, so somebody asked a question if your wife or if your son enter at all.
No. Sometimes my wife is entered into sweepstakes. If we're allowed to do daily per person, sometimes I do enter on her behalf, or I suppose have her enter occasionally. My son says he gets into it. He has
won a few things.
He's actually won a few. He had the Indians experience. He got to go and do batting practice with the Indians. That was a unique experience. I think he got a jersey, and I forget what else. He's had a couple of decent, one body armor, I think, drinks for a year. He's won a couple, so he is entering. I not as, again, I probably haven't gotten to that 50th conversation like you had with me to get me going. So I'll just have to keep
every now and then, when I see him, he'll bring it up, or I do like when I get a random call from him, he'll be like, guess what I won? So so I've had a couple of those from him, and I'm pretty excited. So what do you plan on doing with the money? I guess you covered it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the main thing for me was potentially buying this vehicle out of the lease. I don't drive the car very much. I don't put many miles on it. I feel like I'm an idiot if I get back a car after 3 years with 10,000 miles on it for them to sell. So I don't know that I still have time. I have till June to make that decision. But in some form or another, it will be utilized for a vehicle.
So how I know how you enter, like how you do your daily entry. And everyone has their own way of doing them. And I think the way that you do it, I could never do it personally. But explain how you do your daily entries, because I'm sure there's other people who can relate. I just can't do it. I wouldn't be able to enter the way you enter.
Basically just on my phone. I finally came to the ages of smartphones, about a year prior to getting into the sweep. So probably about 4 years ago, I finally figured out I need a normal phone like everybody in the world has. So I'm able to do them on there. I used to struggle and do them on the computer, and that's part of why I didn't do it religiously. I do them basically strictly on my phone. And it really takes no time for me personally out of my daily routine. I have enough time with my breaks and lunches at work to run through my sweeps, and that's even usually with when we're up to 100 or more.
And when you say run through your sweeps, how do you keep track of your dailies? What do you use?
Well, I go into basically my daily routine is I go into my sweeps, everything that I have plugged into there because I built up the pipeline. And
for those who don't know, my sweeps is on iWIN contest. It's something we have so that you can save your own personal list every single day. You can keep track of when you entered last, how often you enter, things like that.
Yes. So, and I run through those my sweeps every day, and I use my check mark, that nice little thing that I'm so happy that you added there, because I use that check mark, and that's just how I know I don't skip any, I don't miss any. It's also helpful for some of them that are 24 hours, so then I'm not clicking on it all day trying to enter, because I try to enter those as many days in that time period as possible. Yep. And then when I'm finished with my sweeps, I go over to the section that you have for current sweeps. I filter out by my state so I don't accidentally enter stuff for Texas. And I basically run down until I see the last one I had a check mark on, and then I run up it and I enter each one that I choose to enter, of course. I mean, there's some that not everybody enters, or certain ones that people don't enter. I don't do many mail-ins. I'm probably missing the boat, I'm sure, on some things. But by doing that. But that's part of my goals I've set for this year, actually, is to change some of that up.
You mentioned the one 24-hour feature that we added last year. So I'll give myself a quick plug on it. Basically, when you click the button, it tells you when you clicked it. So if you enter and you click it, it's going to tell you what time it is. So if you come in the next day, you can see when you entered. So you know, hey, you know what? I can't enter this for another hour, 5 hours, or 10 hours. It was something that members had asked for, so we built into iWIN. How do you find the time?
I'm fortunate. I mean, for myself, and I know many of us that are working, you have an hour and a couple of breaks each day. And honestly, within that amount of time, I can get them done. I get up I'm getting a little older. I go to bed a little earlier, so I'm up a little bit earlier. So sometimes when I'm having my cup of coffee before work, I'll kind of start those. If I'm having a tiny little breakfast, I don't eat much, but I eat a little breakfast every morning. And a lot of times, honestly, I get them done, which is why this goal has been different, because breaks and lunches, I try to sort through some extra ones that I might want to plug in that I didn't used to do, mail-ins or whatnot. So
Right,
yeah, just not much
we've had
time
the
out of my day.
conversation. You skip some of the ones with a little bit of extra effort.
Yes, sometimes I do. Now, certain ones I do like, because I like the fact I think some people will give up, but some of the ones where you might have to do a special video, or you might even have to, if you really want to try and win, spend a couple of bucks on props or something. I really haven't gotten into some of those, which, maybe you haven't told me 50 times yet that I should, but I this year, that's a goal of mine, is to do, and I'm setting a small goal so I can hit it and, grow from there. But I want to do at least a half dozen of those this year, maybe another a half dozen in mail-ins that I used to maybe just pass by because they took more effort than me just clicking the link on my daily routine.
So you've had some unique wins. You've won some interesting stuff, maybe not huge stuff, but what are a couple of your favorite wins or unique wins that you've been able to win or have?
Oh boy. Lots of cool stuff. Some things you get, like a Budweiser guitar, I don't really use it much, but it's a cool little prop. I've been on, me personally, that I've only won the one UFC trip. The Bud Light Seltzer, I won that game day prize package, came with a grill, $250 Omaha Steaks gift card, a TV, cornhole boards, a table. It was a couple $1,000 prize. That was a pretty cool one. Unique stuff. I mean,
I was thinking of the one that hit my mind when I think of unique was your baseball experience.
oh gosh, yes. Well, yes, that there's unfortunately there's so many, as other sweepers can relate to. Sometimes you don't recall things. That was actually a really, really cool experience. So I got to go to an Indians game a couple of years back, and which actually happened to be, in the long run, it was Shane Bieber's debut. Which is pretty cool. Guy went on to win a Cy Young, and he's a great pitcher for us still. So anyways, I got to go to the game. I had 4 tickets. I got to bring another couple, and my wife and I went. We sat right behind home plate, between the dugout and home plate. I think it was 3rd row. One of the closest, actually, I've probably ever sat at a game. Just that in itself was pretty cool. It also came with a autographed Frankie Lindor jersey, which is pretty cool in and itself. But it didn't end there. I basically got to, between an inning, we went in the tunnels behind, and I got to run out in what they call steal second base. I don't know if other teams do it, around the league or whatever, or if it's just something here in Cleveland. But I think it was between the 5th and 6th innings. Got to run out from left field. They opened the gate, and the people basically just said, run. We had been walking through the tunnel for half a mile, and all of a sudden it's like, here, the gate, now go, 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 because you're on a commercial break and they need to get it done. I got to run out from left field, take second base out of the ground. They put me on the scoreboard with my name, and then I got to run back and I got to keep the base. It's crazy. Those things are very heavy. I mean, you wouldn't even expect what a base is really like, I guess, if you've never seen them up close. And yeah, that was a cool experience. I mean, getting your name on a scoreboard at a game, and the crowd cheering for you and stuff. I mean, that was pretty sweet. So
what are you thinking that you want to improve this year? I know you touched on it a little bit.
Well, definitely giving a little bit more effort than just clicking the links. I do a few here and there, but not enough. I am convinced I'm missing the boat on some by not doing these. And because last year I'd plug them into my sweeps. I'd say I'm going to do them, and I'd just scroll past them until they expired. Too many times. So this year, the goal is to not do that. When they're plugged into my sweeps, if it's a one-time mail-in, or if it's one that's coming up, or a certain time period that I want to send for a certain prize, at least a half a dozen of those, and then a half dozen of ones that I might have to put a little more effort in than a simple picture or video, because those I'll enter. But ones that you got to put a little pizzazz in there to try to stand out, I guess those sometimes I shy away from, which I shouldn't. And this year the goal is not to.
So for those joining late, somebody had asked who this is. This is my brother Michael. We're talking about some of his wins, his biggest win ever. If you joined late, not a problem. The full replay will be up afterwards, and will also get moved over to YouTube, so it'll be on YouTube as well. What are your favorite types of sweepstakes to enter?
Probably instant wins. The instant gratification is always nice. I mean, you don't always win, and that you get a lot. Well, actually, you lose more than you win, of course, on those. But the instant gratification is kind of cool.
Do you have a favorite instant win that you've won?
Well, actually, within a couple of days, I should be getting a solo stove that I won actually off an instant win. It was, I don't remember if it was Ohio only or if it was just a few states around here. It was through, I believe it's a wine company. And there were only 3 winners, and it was maybe a 3-month or it was definitely 3 months or longer, because I remember entering every day, and there were only 3 prizes. But solo stoves, I do usually, that's not one that I'll pass over. There are some things that I'll pass over if I don't care for the prize, or if I'm, for whatever reason. I'm sure we all do it, but solo stove would never get passed over. And actually that was instant.
I love that somebody asked if you're my older brother or my younger brother. Definitely my older brother. Well, Michael is my youngest brother. My youngest brother, he's actually 6. Oh no, 10 years. I don't know why I said 16. 10 years.
9.5.
Oh, yeah. About 10 years younger than me. So, what's something you really want to win?
That's pretty funny, because solo stove would be one that I would say, but I just won one, so that's a tough one. For some reason, I'm collecting coolers of the different beer companies, because now I got so many that I just decided I may as well have one, so when I have people over, I could offer them a cooler to put their beverages in on game day with whatever they bring over. I don't know. That's a nice one. Maybe a nice grill. I do notice sometimes those Traeger grills or whatever, Rectex or whatever. I think you had one for Rectech not too long ago, which is funny. The prize that I won with the truck, the other prizes were 8 Traeger
grills, those nice
for 8 grills. That was the only prizes, was the truck and the 8 grills. And it was when I first got that thing, I think I remembered that. And I thought, well, I think that's all I could win is the truck grand prize or that. So, yeah, I think that, of course, on the other side of actual physical items, just some kind of cool experience. I think the coolest thing would be to win not just a prize and go on a trip, would be like meet and greets, a meet and greet that with somebody that you actually, it ties into what you've watched or what you root
All right,
for or
well,
whatever.
who do you want to win a meet and greet with? I
Oh,
mean,
geez,
you've seen these, you know what you could potentially win, and what's out there. Do you have someone?
yeah, that's a tough one to just pick one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the experiences with the team, I think like the Browns, going there and actually meeting and talking with the players would be cool. Uh, because obviously, I've had some experiences courtesy of you where you meet some people and it's not say that's a tough one. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy all sports, so anything to do with a sport that I enjoy, that somebody I actually have rooted for and stuff, not just a random player in a league.
What's a favorite experience or trip, or what's something that you've got to do because of something I've won that's your favorite?
Well, that one I have to say is probably an easy one. There's been many once in a lifetime experiences, but the main one, the cruise that I proposed to my wife on. I mean, that was just going on the cruise was cool, but I actually was able to propose to my wife in front of 500 or 1,000 people, and yeah, and we've been together now for almost 15 years. So yeah, this has been a cool thing. We've been married for 8, but yeah, so that's got to be up there. Took her swimming with dolphins the next day. That was a lifelong dream of hers. So
Do you have a story growing up with me that you remember that pertains to this? Just like, do you remember like something like really out of the ordinary or bizarre that I did, or that you even did with me to win something?
definitely a couple. If you're talking way back.
Yeah, I mean, just something maybe that you think's kind of interesting, that was unusual maybe at the time, that either both of us did or I did to try and win a sweepstakes or a contest.
Um, Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like way back when, I remember going to some of the games, you got picked for a couple of halftime things. Um, that was interesting. I failed you with pushing you on the recliner at a Cavs game, if you recall.
Oh man, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. There's many of them, so I don't even know. I mean, I don't.
I
I could
forgot
sit here
all
all night.
about it, that we didn't win. So this was at a Cavs game, and we win tickets to the game, and we have to compete against another person, and one of us is in the recliner with a basketball, and the other one has to push, and you have to go down the court, turn around, and come back, and you had to make the shot. And you do this at the same time as the other person. So we had talked about it, and I said, hey, we need to just make the shot on the first time. And I think, like, didn't we hit him? And he ended
Yes.
up beating us there. And did they miss the shot? And then we missed the shot as well. And then they made it.
Yes.
So
Yes. That's exactly how it happened.
yeah,
We got a shirt out of the deal and tickets to the game, and cool experience.
it is. It's a very fun experience. I totally forgot about that, but yeah, we would have got a lazy boy recliner or whoever the sponsor was. That's funny. I forgot all about that. I don't even know when that was. Wow. How old were you? You had to be young.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you that. I don't think I don't think I was old enough to drive at the time. So definitely going back two decades.
That's funny. Anything else that you remember like that? Because now I'm curious, because I
Oh, geez.
totally had forgot that.
Well, I mean, I remember different stuff. There was one time, and I can't recall the whole story, but I remember something with some kind of one of those like hunts that you had to go and get different things and stuff. And I was part of that with you on one of them, but I couldn't remember a whole story to tell you on that one. Um, yeah, I don't know. Lots of goofy ones. There was, I remember the Cavs game at the old Coliseum, but I wasn't part of the on-court thing. I think that I do remember they had the ball heads that they used to be, and you got picked at halftime to go down. I almost feel like there was twice. Once you got to go down on the court and you shot for something with continental points or something like that. And then there was another time that I think it was the same contest, and the people came back and they had to pick somebody else because you had won something within a certain period of time. And you
Yeah.
look over at me and I'm like 8 or 9 years old. You said, "Can my brother do it?" And they're like, "No, is he 18?" I was
I do
probably
remember
9.
that. It was one of the first kind of trips I won. It was airfare. I had won a three-legged race and a wheelbarrow race. You did a three-legged race up one end of the court, a wheelbarrow race back, and you compete against two other people. And it was for airline tickets, wherever you wanted. So I won that. And about 2 weeks later, I got picked for a different halftime one to shoot baskets into a moving target.
That
And
okay,
I have
yeah.
my credential on, and you were with me. And they come up and they don't even say anything. They take the credential off me. It was a sticker, and they say, we're sorry, but you can only win a prize with Continental like once every 12 months. It was per person. And it was the same thing. It was sponsored by Continental at the time, which ended up getting bought by United, but Continental was a huge airline in Cleveland and sponsored all the major sports teams. And they were giving away tickets wherever I wanted. And sure enough, the person who won made one basket. And I was so disappointed because I thought I would have really had a chance to win that. So yeah, somebody mentioned, I've been doing this a long time. I've always entered, like from when I was little and younger and radio stations. It wasn't until, I forget what it is, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, where I decided to make it kind of part of my life, where, like he said, all of a sudden something clicks. You're like, there's something to this. I'm going to do this on a daily basis. And then iWIN came around in, I believe, 2012. So about 4 years later was when iWIN came around. iWIN's been around for a little over 10 years now. What about trip? If you can win a trip, where would it be to?
Oh, probably it was somewhere continental U.S. Or in the United
Where you
States.
want. I mean, there's no rules here, so wherever you
Yeah,
want. You can
Italy,
trip around the world for
Italy.
all that.
Probably Italy, because that's one that's on the so-called everywhere. If you have to have a bucket list, making it to Italy someday. So that would probably be that. Hawaii would be up there as something, because that's one that I'd like to do, that maybe someday. But maybe I could win a work from home contest.
You
But
might. I mean, I'm going to Italy in a couple months with the trip I won. So.
it's yeah. So that was your clue. It's Lee's signal.
Lee's already committed on that one. So you've been invited on a lot of trips, but so
Yes, fortunately so.
what do you have advice for somebody who is debating getting into this, or just even doing it? Something, maybe advice, and then maybe even something that they might be missing.
Um, I could stress. I can't stress enough the consistency. I think that really matters. Again, I did well those 3 years prior, but I wasn't consistent. Now I've been consistent. I've consistently won more. The consistency, and that's just, if you got to manage your time. I'm fortunate I can plug 100 to 150 a day and know I'm going to have the time for that. I'm not taking time away from, family or friends or anything that else that I enjoy. I've made no alterations to my schedule to make time for sweeps. This year I will a little bit with the mail-ins and the stuff, but that's a little different. As far as my daily entries, and again, when we get up to 100, 150, as we build it through the year, hopefully, this just the consistency and just know how much time you have and plug in what you can have time for. Don't go for the shirts and the hats if you don't have the time for it. Then go for the other stuff if that's what you want. But I plug in if I decide I'm going to enter it. If I want the prize or if I like the prize, I plug it in and I just enter them. I don't even pay attention to what they are each day because you're trying to go quickly and it doesn't alter my life schedule other than that. So just consistency.
So I don't know if anyone's asked this, but somebody asked, or normally it's asked, do you, so I was trying to see if somebody actually did ask. Well, let's take this question for, so somebody said, you have 100 to 150 in my sweeps. And you probably want to clarify right now in January, you don't. What do you want to right now per day?
Oh, that's a tough one. I could go on the phone real quick, but I'd say 50, maybe between 50 and 80. Okay. And again, those would include my weekly ones, which I don't think there's that many weekly ones in there right now. And then a couple that are one times that I just haven't gotten to enter yet, but.
Right. And my dailies right now are right around 100. So just for those watching, to give you a comparison, I am not someone who enters hours and hours and hours a day. Now, granted, I put a lot of time into iWIN, a lot of time into searching content on the site, answering questions, things like that. So yes, I'm involved, but my actual entering, just like Kim, I try and keep it down to like an hour a day. 120, 130 is my sweet spot. For those who don't do this normally or haven't done this a lot, January, February, you're going to have less sweeps. As the year goes on, that number grows to December, you're typically entering the most per day, which can be really hard because of the holidays and everything else. So in December, I was probably doing 150, 160 a day or so, maybe even 170. So, I can't remember exactly. But then as soon as January hit, just like him, my number fell to like 50, and it's been building throughout the month. Now we're on the last day of the month, so we're going to have a big drop off tomorrow, but we're also going to have a bunch of new sweeps that will start tomorrow, and so we'll do that. Somebody asked how many in an hour. For me, I can do 100, 125 in an hour. I imagine you're probably similar.
Yeah, about, because like I said, that I got 2 15-minute breaks in an hour, and obviously it takes me time to punch and walk to the car, and I'm eating and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say 100 for me.
Somebody asked, and this is more of an iWIN question: when sweepstakes expire, do they drop off your my sweeps? They don't automatically, and we went back and forth on this because they will show that it's expired, but they won't be removed from your personal list. And the reason being, some people wanted to know that they entered them, how many times they entered, and to go back. So you actually have to remove them as they end if you don't want them on your personal list. The question I was going to ask you before is, outside of iWIN, do you do any searching on your own? Do you enter any other sweepstakes you find?
To be completely honest, no. I used to. I mean, very rare. Let me say very rare. Sometimes if I'm scrolling through Twitter, which I don't do much, but if I am, sometimes I will. Maybe throw.
Catches your eye.
Yeah, and it's just something random, or some of them I'll have notifications turned on because of a certain sweep that they just had or something, or they have sweeps often, some of the beer companies or whatnot, and so those. But I really don't go hunting for them because, honestly, I go in my sweeps on your website, and that's all I enter, and I've consistently. I mean, I've hit very nice the last 3 years, and this year started off great.
And somebody asked, how we can enter that many in an hour. And, if you've never seen me enter, or, I teach a whole class on organization that isn't much as organization as it shows my process and how I enter. It's really not difficult. You use either like Chrome autofill, or you use RoboForm or some sort of form filler, and it's just mindless. And so to be able to do that is not very uncommon among people who enter sweepstakes. That's actually a very normal amount. It's not like a very high amount, and it's not a very low amount. That 100 to 120 is very, very normal. You just get used to it. So a lot of it's repetition as well. So we'll take some questions. We'll take some questions for a few minutes. They can be for me, they can be for my brother. So if you have some questions or something that you were curious about that you didn't get answered, is there anything that you wanted to add, just in general, while I'm waiting for some questions to pop up?
Not necessarily. Just thankful that I got into doing this and actually made the commitment, because like I said, those first 3 years that I did it before I bought the house, it wasn't consistent enough, so it was hard to be honest with myself, which you would win, and I'm nowhere near that, but I wasn't being consistent with it. Now that I am, I do. And that next step would be, just like I said, adding those other couple in. So I wish everybody else luck out there with winning. It's awesome. I feel like I win twice when I get told I win, and then when the prize arrives. So
But what do you do with the majority of your prizes?
oh, geez. Well, I've developed a prize room down the hall.
Which is where I used to sleep when I came to visit.
Yes, unfortunately,
So
Tom has to sleep on the
the
couch.
last time, now it's been a couple times ago, I went there and said, "Oh, I'll take my stuff up in the room that I normally sleep in," and it's all filled with prizes now. There's no bed anymore, so you need to win a bet.
Yes, so pretty much that. I mean, some things I sell if it's something that I'm not interested in keeping. Other things I hang on to. The Budweiser guitar is a nice little piece. A lot of things are nice display pieces, and so yeah, I give them away. Every year I seem to win. I have about 3 little kids that I buy gifts for around the holidays, and almost every year I don't have to buy them. At least the last 3, I win little kits, Smithsonian kits and stuff, I think is what I actually just took my buddy for his kids the other day. So
someone had asked, this was a question for iWIN about, does the MySweep show how many times you're entered? And it does. There's actually a video. There's a video on the site, and it's actually on our YouTube channel that actually walks you through the site, so you can see how the site works. When we do an update to the site, which we're in the process of doing 2 things to it right now, we'll make a new video, kind of highlights those and shows how those work. But there's one on that. There's also one on Discord. Obviously, Discord is a huge, huge part of iWIN and the success that our members have had. So much that I know that other sites eventually are going to copy it. It's inevitable, but right now we have by far the strongest Discord of any sweepstakes site out there. Let's see. Trying to see if we have some more questions. We will do, some giveaways. In fact, I'm going to be doing another giveaway with iWIN. We've kind of stopped doing them a little bit with the lives, and part of this was with the give back. We had some issues with it, and I think it's kind of what caused some of the problems we had. So, yeah, if you haven't done Discord, check out Discord. Somebody asked if you've been to a convention.
Uh, well, no, I've been promising to go for the last couple of years. I finally did commit to one. Unfortunately, COVID hit and Michigan was postponed and then canceled, if I remember correctly. Um, so no, but I will be. I will. I promise to promise Tom that I will. So if not this year, I know we sort of talked a little bit about potentially Phoenix, but that may or may not happen. But definitely, yes, hopefully within this coming year, but if not the following year, I think that's when I get an extra week vacation from work. So we'll have to make it happen. I'm interested.
Someone asked for me why we use Discord instead of the website. Discord's a third-party app. I don't own it. I wish I did. They've been offered billions from Microsoft to sell it, but it's basically a very fancy chat group forum. But more importantly, there's so many different channels and there's so much information that we can put out there, and we can do it in seconds. So, we just had a great sweep that during the World Cup, during each match, there were different giveaways. Well, you only had, maybe a minute or so to enter that sweep. So I happen to be watching most of the games. I could just put a notice on, and just like that, everyone who gets those notices from the channel gets them, so they can enter and they can win. It's very simple. It's a good place to ask questions. It's a good place to kind of get to know each other, but it's where we can share information. We used to have a text group. We used to share different keywords for all the different sweeps. Well, you may not want certain keywords. You may only want a certain radio brand. There's different ones. There's iHeart, there's Odyssey, there's Beasley, there's IBA, there's CBS, there's all kinds of different ones. And you say, you know what, I just focus on iHeart keywords. But then you can just get those. You don't have to get everything. So Discord just works so well. It's ways to communicate with people. It works much, 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 much better than just a normal forum. A normal forum is, that's 20 years ago, unfortunately. And I think one of the big differences in sweeping is the people who tell me how easy it was to win and how they used to win all the time, they never make the transition to the new information and the new age. Somebody had asked, are you on TikTok yet? Are you on TikTok?
Oh, am I?
Yeah, they asked you.
Yes and no. Yes,
Have you entered anything on TikTok yet?
I was entering the Rice Krispies, Santa one. Yes. So yes.
So
I'm not famous.
As an example there, that's just one example, but people don't transfer into the new age and the new technology and the way people are entering today. It started where everything was by mail. Then it kind of went online. And then we had a brief time where people who did like referral sweeps had a ton of success because nobody did them. And they were the faux pas, like, you don't, those are bad. And the people who are doing them are winning a ton. And now we've gotten away from those and it's social media. But the problem is there's a lot of people who are still doing, because now it's okay and they want to enter those. But now those are really a waste of time for most people. Not everyone, but the majority of people, you're wasting your time. You want to enter the best stuff. And the other thing that I can't say enough to echo what my brother says is consistency. Entering every single day is so important. I realize not everyone can do that, but if you can, you are going to have a huge advantage over those who can't. And so the people who win regularly that you see winning all the time over and over, most of those people enter every single day. That's usually the only difference that they're doing that you're not, as long as you're entering the right stuff. Let's see if we got some more questions. Have you won any other household items besides the vanity?
Nothing that's like would be fixtured to the home, I guess you would say. But definitely plenty of stuff for the home that you can use. I mean, where do you even start? I mean, tons of electronics and I mean, Bluetooth speakers and I mean, you name it. I just won from Philips Norelco one of the fancy trimmers that I use for my goatee. I didn't need a new one, but whatever, I want it. Uh, yeah, just household stuff like that, I guess you'd say. I'm not sure what they mean by, specific household. Other than that, nothing that's fixtured to the house, I'd say.
Somebody asked about Michigan because we brought Michigan up. Unfortunately, so Michigan used to hold a meeting every single year. It was in usually, forget, second week in April, somewhere around there. And Al, the gentleman who ran it, unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, and so it hasn't been held since, after being held for 20 some years in a row, with the exception of the 1 year because of COVID. But other than that, yeah, it's really, there's other ones happening, but unfortunately Michigan at this point is not. This year you have North Carolina coming up the first weekend in March. You have Memphis coming up in October. Those are both kind of minis. Memphis is more of a couple-day thing, where North Carolina is more of a one-day event. And then the main convention is in Arizona, which is just after 4th of July. It's that weekend, starting on Thursday and going through the weekend. So any more last questions? And we will let you get out of here. Anything else you want to say?
No, I still haven't gotten a notification about the Super Bowl, so maybe watching it from home, but
I know I am very sad that it is no secret. Most of the members and people who are following me know that, one, I love going to the Super Bowl. I think it's just an amazing experience, but I have promised for the last couple of years to take you if I could win again, and I have not accomplished that goal. I was fortunate to be a guest last year of somebody who won and go to the halftime show. But the last Super Bowl I was at was 2018, 2019.
the last Patriots.
Yeah, it was the Patriots and Rams. So in Atlanta. So, right? Atlanta or Houston?
Yeah.
It was Atlanta, because
I
the
think
other
that's
one
right.
that was Houston. So yeah, I have to admit I'm losing hope, but I will say that the last time that I won, I was notified the Thursday before the game, so that would be this Thursday. So there is hope. And man, we continue to have members. We had a member today notified that they won a trip to next year's Super Bowl for 4. I'm super jealous, but I'm super excited that I win number 1. So I'm sure we'll have some more, and we have at least 30 members going to the Super Bowl this year, which is really exciting. So thank you for joining me and doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
I want you to win a trip and take me, and maybe we'll do this again. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you missed any of it, I will get it up on YouTube here shortly. I'll have to format so later on, and then I'll post the link so that you guys will see it as well. So other than that, thanks for joining me. We will be doing another one of these lives very soon. We'll see you soon.